Hi, it's Chris, and we are taking a look at questions 31 through 34 in the grid-in portion of Section 4 on SAT Practice Test 2. So let's take a look at question 31 to start. A coastal geologist estimates that a certain country's beaches are eroding at a rate of 1.5 feet per year. According to the geologist's estimate, how long will it take in years for the country's beaches to erode by 21 feet? So this is our total. 21 feet, and we want to figure out a time period. Well, if it's 1.5 feet per year, or for 1 year, then you can think of setting that up like a proportion. That's 1.5 feet in 1 year, and they want to know how many years for it to erode 21 feet. So we can cross multiply. And if you did this in one step, that's also okay. Here, when you cross multiply, you would get 1.5x equals 21. And for this conversions question and dimensional analysis question, a lot of people would set this up as x equals 21 divided by 1.5 to start. And again, if you did that in one step, that's absolutely fine. But just wanted to display the proportion. That looks a little bit yucky dealing with the decimal, but luckily this is a calculator section, so if you need the calculator, that's perfectly okay. And here, when you divide those, you'll get 14 for the number of years for the beaches to erode by a total of 21 feet. Up next, let's take a look at 32. Here it says if h hours and 30 minutes is equal to 450 minutes, what is the value of h? So I recommend, since the 30 minutes added on here is just a fraction of an hour, let's see if we can take that out of the equation by subtracting that. Here, it's really like saying h hours is equal to, if you were to subtract those 30 minutes and not have that extra lingering amount, then 450 minus 30 would give us 420 total minutes. So really this question is just like saying, hey, how many hours is 420 minutes? And when making that conversion, there are a total of 60 minutes in an hour. So here, 1 hour is equivalent to 60 minutes. And so again, think of it just like a proportion. That means x hours would be equivalent to 420 minutes. And you'll end up dividing 420 by 60. And if it helps to think of that as cross multiplication, you can. 420 divided by 60 would give you 7 hours. But key factor there is right at the beginning. If they give you this extra little leftover amount, go ahead and account for that first so that you can just deal with nice whole number values for the number of hours that you're talking about. On to number 33. Here in the xy plane, the point 3, 6 lies on the graph of the function f of x equals 3x squared minus bx plus 12. What is the value of b? So we've said this before, and hopefully it's something that we're starting to get the hang of, but whenever they give you a coordinate in that form of xy, we want to go ahead and plug those values in for x and y correspondingly. And here, f of x, that's really the same thing as saying y. So this is like y equals 3x squared minus bx plus 12. We're going to plug in a 3 in place of x, and then we're going to plug in a 6 in place of y. So let's see what it looks like when we do those. 3 times 3 squared minus b times 3, or to write it so that it looks a little more like what we traditionally will see, you could write it as minus 3b plus 12. And now we're just going to do a little bit of arithmetic to try to simplify things and get a numerical value for b. Here this would be 3 squared is 9 times 3, that's 27, minus 3b plus 12. That would be 6 equals 39 minus 3b when we combine like terms. Subtract 39 from the other side, that gives us a negative 33 equal to negative 3b. And in our last step, let me make this a touch smaller so that everything will fit. And in our last step here, we can divide by negative 3, and we get positive 11 as our value for b. on number 33. So the big takeaway there is this XY coordinate setup and these corresponding values for your X and your Y. If we are able to do that and plug in, a lot of these seemingly complicated XY plane questions become much easier for us to then solve by plugging into that equation. Now, for question 34. In one semester, Doug and Laura spent a combined 250 hours in the tutoring lab. If Doug spent 40 more hours in the lab than Laura did, how many hours did Laura spend in the lab? So, here we have two variables, Doug and Laura, or D and L, and together, right, combined, it's going to give us a total of 250 hours. So that would be like saying D plus L equals 250. And as we can see, and again, hopefully this is something that with repeated exposure we're getting more comfortable with, but D plus L equals 250, that's two variables with only one equation, which means we need a second equation to be able to solve for both variables. So let's see what that second statement gives us. If Doug spent 40 more than Laura did, so that's like saying D equals 40 more than L, or L plus 40. Now we have two equations for our two variables, which means that's going to be enough information for us to solve. So let's go ahead and see if we can solve this out. Here we can substitute in L plus 40 in place of D and rewrite that equation to say L plus 40 plus L, and I'll highlight it, but basically instead of D we're writing in this expression because we know that that's what D is equal to, and so we plug that in place of D and keep everything else as is, and we get 2L plus 40 equals 250. We can subtract 40. 2L will equal 210. We can divide by 2. L will equal 105. And let's double check what the question's asking. They want to know how many hours did Laura spend in the lab. Okay, good. So they're asking for L. We solved for L. We're done. If they had been asking for the hours Doug spent in the lab, then we could plug back into the original equation and solve for the other variable. But in this case, we solved for L. They want to know L. And so that's it. Stay tuned.